The only justice for a blood dragon is for the servants of the actual blood god to strike them down. Therefore, Monch is going to be taking Valkia plus the Regiment of Renown, Bloodthirster here, the Khorne's Bloody Fist, into this blood dragon vampire lord here. We've also got a couple of Marauder horsemen with throwing axes, of course, of Khorne, Soul Grinder. Got some halberd warriors and marauders with some Forsaken as well. Khorne Forsaken recently got a buff since, you know, all Forsaken get Frenzy, and Khorne normally gives Frenzy. I think they got, like, a little bit extra armor or something. Anyway, Cultist of Khorne as well here, and then that's it for Khorne. As for the vampire accounts here, he's got a Claw of Nagash, Mortis Engine, Sternsmen, lots of skeletons, Graveguard, great weapons out on the flanks, and zombies up front. So smart of the Blood Dragon to just come in here and hard land, although he doesn't have many units either way with anti-large. I don't think actually he has any anti-large whatsoever. There's no Blood Knights or any other kind of high mass, so, you know, Crypt Horrors, anything like that to support. So going to be quite vulnerable here, obviously. Let's see how he can do. The Khorne Marauder is going to pull up front. We've also got the Soul Grinder here who can apply some single entity pressure. So quite a bit of spend on single entities here from Khorne. But as the Blood Dragon maneuvers around, Valkia and the Bloodthirster are going to drop down and try and take out the Mortis Engine. Bloodthirster, of course, will be getting some really nice damage on the Sternsman as well, probably. But yeah, we see an immediate indication of the heck there. And the Blood Dragon charges on in for a nice 2v1. Meanwhile, the Khorne units filtering in. Even Khorne Horsemen actually will trade okay against zombies due to their high damage output. Soul Grinder also teams up with the Forsaken on this far side to try and take down some of those Graveguard. The Forsaken will definitely pay a pretty heavy price for that, but here in the center, Bloodthirster's going to attempt to pull away. I guess he does have one unit with anti-large here, this Vampire Count player. The Dire Pack we saw there, little Spear Slopnir in the front line, also do some nice AoE damage. But just in general, Valkia a little bit soloed out here is going to take some damage, but the Bloodthirster is certainly near enough to provide some support. Let's see if they can get away back up in the air and pursue that Blood Dragon, or else come collapse the Mortis Engine, which is currently draining out this giant blob. The Khorne Halberds will be quite good here, though. I mean, obviously, they're going to have armor-piercing damage. They have higher offensive output than your typical Halberd. They can cut through, you know, skeletons and zombies just fine, as opposed to other Halberds, which may struggle at times. But definitely don't want them just getting hard drained by this Mortis Engine. So finally, the Khorne's Bloody Fist here is able to escape the wolves. We see Valkia up in the sky also fighting the Blood Dragon. Going to do as much damage as possible. It's once again going to hard land immediately into the Dire Pack there. Pop a little heal. Checking on the far side, Soul Grinder still fighting it out, as are the Khorne Halberds in the center. The rest of the Khorne build starting to have some leadership problems, but at least the Cultists can hold some units in position there. Wow. Bloodthirster comes in to try and finish off once again Mortis Engine, and it's definitely going to be pushing it around very heavily, away from reinforcements, be able to focus all of its attacks. Nice little charge there from the Horsemen as well, of course. Khorne Horsemen have really nice charge bonus. They are very good hybrid cavalry and should be treated as such. And so they charge in here and actually assist. Of course, that flaming damage also. I guess they don't have flaming damage in melee, but with their missile attacks they do. Regardless, Mortis Engine goes down. Blood Dragon's going to jump in here once again. And it's all a bunch of red flapping wings as Bloodthirster faces off against him. We see Valkia in the near ground pop her little shield. Not that she's being focused anyway. The Bloodthirster's definitely going to soak all the attacks of the Blood Dragon here. All of his stuff popped off right now. It's definitely doing a great job. But also, 2v1 against two elite anti-large Khorne units is definitely going to be a tough time. So he gets absolutely pummeled there. And will he actually get finished off? Looks like he might be able to escape. Pulls up a unit of zombies right there. Give himself a tiny little bit of extra healing, but it's not enough. Dies to crumbling damage. A few flaming axes rain down on his corpse there. And with that, of course, the vampire army is going to immediately have major leadership issues. A lot of units will start crumbling immediately. Soul Grinder has taken some damage, but has also managed to grind out a lot of HP off of these Graveguard great weapons and also keep them occupied. Halberd's also in the center, continuing to scrap. Here, managed to rack up 155 kills, just grinding through chaff, and actually a pretty decent amount of value as well. as it hasn't been all just low-value stuff. They're about to get career charged here, though, but nice Sword of Khorne to blast this last blob. Do a huge amount of AoE damage right there. And it'll be up to the single entities mostly to finish it off. The horsemen will be able to provide some support here. But the infantry is definitely getting worn down, although I have to say, pretty happy with how these halberd warriors have done so far. Horn of Khorne also on them, giving a little bit of extra melee attack. Well, on everything here, but the halberd warriors still continuing to hold out despite fighting Graveguard great weapons, which are a counter to them, for sure. But, I mean, they're Khorne halberds. They're going to keep punching after all. So, and some of the coolest looking halberds in the game, in my opinion, too. I love the Khorne aesthetic. It's so classic Warhammer. And it's going to be a victory over the vampire counts. No Harald needed. Not that he's available for Khorne anyway, but still. Very impressive stuff by the single entities here, Valkia and the yeah, the Bloodthirster. You don't see this guy perform super often, very well. He's not the most common pick in the world. This is definitely a matchup where he can be used to great effect here. And, I mean, even despite them, the Blood Dragon was able to still get a pretty impressive amount of value. Mortis Engine, not so much. Definitely a risky pick in this matchup because of the high damage single entities that have flaming damage for Khorne. But anyway, Soul Grinder also contributes nicely, helping to grind down some great weapons here. The Halberds also, 820 is pretty nice to see there. Almost 200 kills like grinding chaff. Definitely the best chaff grinding Halberds in the game, it must be said. Horsemen at 1,000 value is great support as well. For the Graveguards, yeah, I mean, they didn't do what they needed to ultimately. Just not enough mass in this build. Like, you could probably swap these Graveguards out for Crypt Horrors, and suddenly this build becomes quite a bit better, even though Crypt Horrors are also vulnerable to flaming damage. They just, the high mass and decent DPS makes them a solid option when you're trying to fight in a big brawl kind of fight, right? Alternately, I do think Blood Knights would be a good candidate for similar treatment to what Grail Knights got. Obviously, they don't need to be completely broken, but just in general, I think to lower their model count size, maybe give them armor piercing, or at the very least higher weapon strength, splash attacks, make them a little bit more elite, I think would probably be, number one, lore appropriate, and number two, might actually help the vampire counts in their one specific weakness, which is still, after all these years, a general lack of anti-large. So there's that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.